I'm being thrown around by these planets.
The body, the mind, karma, it's all just memory imprints.
Astrology is not real.
What astrology is?
He's reading the chart.
Welcome to this channel, bro. First, I want you to just introduce yourself, general introduction, and then we can get into it. So, who are you, Nick?
My name's Nick Wright. I'm an astrologer, freestyle rapper, and a soul-centered coach.
Cool. So let's get deep into it. Let's start basics. I want you to explain what astrology is and what its importance to a spiritual seeker, and why people should even be interested in astrology.
Astrology is the study of celestial objects and how they impact life on Earth for humans. So the topic is as deep and nuanced as music, right? So what is music? We can't just say it's one genre, we can't just say it's one thing, but we can start to categorize and understand the science of it. There's rhythm, there's melody, right? So astrology works in the same way.
Cool. Yeah. So I love your explanation that we've had before about the sun, moon, and rising, as those are usually the three most important aspects of astrology when you're looking at your signs. So I would love you to explain those three, because every time you explain them to me, I'm just all right, I can't explain it better than this. So what do you think those important, how do you explain those three things as the most important aspects of your astrology?
Yeah, sun, moon, rising, the big three as we call it in mainstream culture for a good reason. The sun and the moon are what we call the lights and kind of make up your conscious personality as the sun, and your more internal inner self with the moon, your emotional body. And the rising sign is kind of like the front door of your whole astrology chart. So the front door to your house is what everyone can see, and it's how you present yourself, but it's also how you open the door, and all these other parts of you are inside your house, and that's the whole astrology chart. So everything kind of filters through the ascendant.
Nice. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, man. All right, and then the only other thing I think that needs clarification is the Vedic astrology versus the tropical, the Western astrology. Can you explain a little bit of their differences and why they're different and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we have Western astrology, Vedic astrology. And Western astrology primarily uses the tropical zodiac. And Vedic astrology primarily uses the sidereal zodiac. So this is just different ways of slicing up the sky. Different ways, same sky, same sign, same planets. They just, the sidereal zodiac is based on how the stars are actually moving in the precession of the equinoxes. So right now, Aries, the thing with the Western zodiac is Aries always starts on the spring equinox. So it always starts in accordance to equinoxes and solstices. So it's always based on that. And sidereal zodiac is not. So they are following the stars, which move 1 degree every 72 years. So in this 26,000 year cycle we go through, Vedic astrology follows that in how they slice up the sky and do this divinatory art. Beautiful.
All right, now I want to hear how you got into this. How do you get into astrology? Well, from my experience, it wasn't something I was looking into. It was just something that your pattern recognition of your life. You start to realize some of these patterns. You start to realize that this math of astrology was right. So how did you get into this whole astrology business?
It came into my life in a very serendipitous way. A book just
Always
arrived.
does.
Yeah, just the only astrology book you'll ever need. And I wasn't into any of this kind of stuff. But I was at a time in my life where I was kind of a crazy teenager that was partying and, drinking way too much. So I was, kind of getting help for that in my, I was 20 years old, and And this book came to me while I was like kind of sitting with all that stuff and healing from that. And I just started like just being like, this is really weird and interesting. And I read Gemini. I was like, man, this is really weird. Like, this makes a lot of sense, but this can't be real. Like, let me just keep playing with this. Oh, what's your sign? Let's read about it.
Right.
Oh, whoa, this is connecting with you. This is connecting with you. And there was just so much truth in it. And as I started to see that there was much more depth. Oh wait, there's a moon sign, a Mercury sign, a Venus sign. There's aspects. This is a complex science. And there started to be more truth and more specificity on characteristics of the psyche and soul that started to emerge as I would study this art form. And I just became enamored with it. It was like, man, if this is real and you can understand these things, how could somebody not? That's what I was thinking. How could you not study it? That was my passion for it.
Yeah, it's always super interesting to me when you look at like all traditions across time, you know, they're always looking at, you know, the stars and doing these very complex maths with like very simple technologies just to figure out how, like, you know, the earth moves and, you know, how the stars are moving and what it means. I mean, for example, we have like the Mayan calendar, who in 2012, you know, was the ending of a giant astrological cycle. And, you know, it shifted us into a new age in astrology, for example, you know. And now we're having a lot of awakenings. You know, we have from the Law of One, who says that, you know, there's a great awakening of the fourth density consciousness happening. All these crazy lineups that we've been able to study through astrology itself. And this doesn't just go from like that macrocosm, it goes to, you know, individuals as themselves. So it's really interesting to me as like someone who, you know, kind of just gets thrown into the astrology just by observing my own being, where it's like every 21st day of the month, all of a sudden a whole new energetic way of expressing myself is happening. So it's very interesting to me of like the importance of learning this astrology through your own system, through your own mental, you know, thought processes and how you're acting. Because as you know, as much as people want to control their life, you know, this is the star systems, man, these giant planets, even if it's just gravity, you know, it's affecting you. So I would love you to hear about your ideas about, like those type of giant astrological shifts, especially like that fourth density shift from third density to fourth density, 2012, whatever, you know, all these different astrology systems, as well as like how that is important into the person, like the individual and their journeys.
Yeah, these planets are definitely affecting things. There's definitely reality to it. But, you know, let's say you're in a rainstorm. You know, that rainstorm's happening whether you like it or not. You can get drenched by it and complain about it and be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's raining. Oh, why is this happening to me? Man, I hate when there's rainstorms. I'm gonna hide from the rainstorms. Or you could be like, wow, this is a cleansing process. This is a purification. I love this rain. This is just something natural and cleansing, and it just is what is, so I'm gonna embrace this process, right? So I think, you know, we're talking about, you mentioned third density and fourth density. We're talking about a realm of ego and a realm of heart-based consciousness, which seems to be the big shift that we're undergoing. So ego-based astrology could either be like, I'm being thrown around by these planets, or, you know, I'm gonna control these planets. You know, I'm God actually. So, versus fourth density, which is like, hey, I'm a co-creator along with these planets, and these planets are in me, and I actually have these attributes, but I'm also surrendered to the greater cosmos and the whole. You know, they're still working, but our level of enlightenment or level of freedom from ego is going to determine how they work for us and with us. or against us, but nothing is ever working against you. Just like in the third density, law of one, it's like, even this is for you. All these are now they're catalysts. So astrology can be looked at the same way. So things can be really challenging. There can be a Pluto transit that comes over your sun, and it's like, oh my God, I'm being flayed alive in this crucible of, catalytic truth being revealed. But it's, it's to get you deeper into your soul essence. It's always there to help you. And the more conscious that we can be and work with it, the better the outcomes.
Straight up. Yeah, what I always think about is, when I think about the astrology system, is this quote from Ram Dass, who is like, if you're really looking at the body and the systems that we're like playing with, he's kind of talking about the kosha system in yoga, where it's like, it's just different channels of your being. So it's like, you have the physical channel, you have the mental emotional channel, but then you have like this channel in which, like, if you're looking at everyone in the world and you're on this channel, there's only 12 archetypes really of everyone. Maybe the archetypes are, intertwined with other things, because archetypes get really funky quick. But it is this grand archetype that we see throughout consciousness and our perception of, humanity. And what is always curious to me when I think about these type of things is that there's a lot of talk about a 13th zodiac being, Orion being where we are. What are your thoughts about that? Because I would love to hear more about this concept if you've heard about it before.
Yeah, so we started this conversation off, I told you about two different zodiacs, two different ways of dividing the sky. So tropical zodiac from the equinoxes, which is a completely 90-degree thing, and we make 330 degrees. So Western is perfectly based on that.
Gotcha.
Sidereal, we say, okay, this is the bullseye, the middle of Taurus, the middle of Scorpio. We have 30-degree segments around that, and that they shift 1 degree every 72 years.
Gotcha.
So they're both, those two systems are both, the signs are 30 degrees spaces. And what you're talking about, people are calling nowadays true sidereal. So they shift with the stars, but they make the signs the size of the constellations. So the problem is with even sidereal people who base it on the stars and the shifting of the stars will say Western is wrong because you're not following the stars, but all the constellations are different sizes. They're not all 30 degrees.
Right.
Virgo is way different size than Aries.
Right.
So they're basing it off of a point and then moving it. But true sidereal is saying, no, let's base it exactly on the constellations. And in that case, there's a 13th sign.
Gotcha.
So I think the way that God works and is in many different ways. It's like, how can all these systems seem to work? So I call them divinatory systems. There's systems that we've drawn lines in, and over time we've figured out how they work. There's Chinese astrology, there's Mayan astrology, there's Vedic astrology, there's Western astrology, there's many astrologies.
Right.
So is this true sidereal astrology that is based on the constellations, is there any validity to it? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there can be. I'm sure people can find ways to use divination. Right. I can use divination from a tea leaf, right? Divination and synchronicity is just built into the fabric of reality.
Of course.
So, but when people try to say, you guys are doing it wrong because X, Y, Z, they're not really understanding the depth of why people are choosing something. So I choose to work with Western astrology. I have my reasons for why I think it's the one I want to trust and rely on. I think basing it on equinoxes and solstices makes a lot of sense, and I trust the history of it, I trust the usage of it, but I don't deny that there's other ways that God can design things. So
Right. To me, it's all about pattern recognition, and then like how are you dividing that pattern is the whole thing. It's all geometry at the end of the day. And from my experience, like I haven't dove super deep into all the types of astrology, but just from personal experience, the Western astrology, when it's based off of like the equinoxes and just how seasons work. Like, because I'm never really pushing, looking into these things. Like, I'm not looking like, oh, it's now this astrology. It's just based off of like how my breath is changing so subtly per different astrology, how my body and mind are reacting to this new astrology, how, I know we've talked about this outside of this camera multiple times, but it's like, it's all rooted through the elements in my head and all the, just how energy flows from zero to the infinite. And so what's really interesting to me when I think about that 13th zodiac system is that when you're looking how energy is forming from like the Tao, for instance, into the thousands of things, it follows that Fibonacci sequence of numbers. And so as you go from 0, eventually it gets to 13. So it'll go from 8 to 13. And it's always interesting to me because I always picture when, I'm thinking what's 0, what's 1, what's 2. When I get to that 13, I'm still placing astrology into that 13, or like the tarot. That's like the 21. So I'm still putting that astrology archetype there, even if it's just the 12, systems, and it doesn't fully line up with the, the 13 that's there. But always thought it was super interesting. And I also would like to touch more upon how like archetypes, we talk about elements and zodiacs, archetypes, but these archetypes are so confusing really quickly when you have like, for instance, the sun and moon signs are different, can be different astrology signs. And so those archetypes start creating your unique experience. So I'd like to dive a little more into that, of like how these archetypes, create the individual itself, even though at this grand level, you can see how, 2 Aries look very similar on that level. But it's like, for instance, my Aries Cancer moon will be different than someone's Aries who's, Sagittarius moon or something like that. So let's dive into that type of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. So if anyone's seeing a headline article that says 13th sign described and people saying astrology is not real because of that, Western astrologers have been doing this for thousands of years, probably longer, probably given to us by Atlanteans or civilizations before us.
Right.
Which is what it's actually said. And Hermes has given it, whatever. There's ancient things that are saying it's been given to us way before, and we don't really know the origin of astrology. Yeah. So, but to say that we discovered this new thing and the whole way you've been doing it's wrong is just laughable to a Western astrologer, because we know it's not based on the constellations. It never was.
Right. It's
based on the seasons. Mm-hmm. So we are very comfortable and confident in the way that this works. We know it works, and
right.
We're not. And any open-minded Western astrology is open to other things working as well. But
right.
we're not. It's not going to shatter the system when.
Right.
And it's kind of a NASA hype a lot of times, or just pop astrology or pop New Age spirituality hype. Mm-hmm. That this message has been coming on a headline, for a long time. This isn't a new thing even.
Right.
This has happened, decades ago. New sign discovered, new astrology. Right. Neil deGrasse Tyson will go on and be like, see, I knew it was never right, but he doesn't know the first thing about astrology to deny its validity. Real astrologers are really well-versed astronomers as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I always think about, there's always this divide in like the consciousness that we're at right now, where you have people who are like tapped into the connection of everything versus the people who are still living in that belief of separation. And it would be really interesting to you to touch upon like how, the amazing modern science and their push for space exploration and understanding of space. But, a lot of times they're probably missing a lot of the basic stuff like astrology. So what are some of the like common like things that they're missing in like just scientific studies of space that like you think if they just had this simple understanding of, astrology would benefit them greatly? Because I know it happens throughout all of spirituality and science.
It's just a simple fact that they don't value the exploration of the inner realm as much as they do the outer world, simply. So, and there's a cool kind of new law that is in astrology, or new idea that works pretty well, which is like the farther out planets we discover, the deeper within they seem to be. Like Pluto has to do with a very deep place.
Right.
And the basic 7 of visible planets up to Saturn, that's all we knew in this time in our Earth Earth game we're playing here, but like 1700s, you got Uranus, 1800 Neptune,
Right.
1900s, Pluto, and now in 2000s we have Eris and many, many more
Right.
things being discovered. So this is, to astrologers, this is like pointing to the fact of the depth of the psyche that's being revealed. So I think modern astronomers and modern everything is just like, how fast and awesome can this technology be? How smart can this robot be? How far out can we discover? And all that is cool, but spirituality is always the pursuit of the inner life first, and understanding how deep does that go and how profound is that?
Very, very profound.
Yeah, yeah.
For real. Yeah, it's always interesting because, I was just watching this podcast that Sagar was doing with an astronaut, and they were talking about, how do we go to space consciously? How do we explore space consciously? Because obviously we have this huge divide in humanity where, the people who are doing the inner works are seemingly starting to be the only ones stable enough to even see the insanity of this world. And yet, when you are an astronomer, or not astronomer, when you're an astronaut, you go out to space, you get this external viewpoint that really puts you into that internal mode. So it's like you're going to space and you're seeing how small Earth really is, and you're in space in a void, physical void feeling, and you have to really be into that internal works. So there is some validity in that aspect of, it's like, even if you're pushing externally, you are forced back into the internal. And so I'm always I've been interested in space. I mean, it's hard not to when you can go see the stars. Granted, most of modern society limits that one, but when you can go see how crazy the stars are, it's like you just think back of all the ancestors who's with none of this blue light. They're just seeing the miracle of how this is even functioning. Super impressive.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
So even outer exploration, we see how infinite it is,
Right.
and then we realize, oh wow, we know less and less, and we become smaller in that pursuit, and that could lead back to the
It's
self.
like it always does.
Yeah, everything always does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy, so crazy. I also want to do you explain my chart, and I can explain some of where I can remember, this happened throughout my spiritual journey. Here's the direct, physical, mental, catalyst, for better or for worse, that happens when you're looking at my chart. I think it would be really cool to give someone a grounded understanding of how this thing really works. So it would be really cool to do this.
Definitely.
And try to explain it.
Yeah, and I never answered your question about, you could have this archetype or that archetype.
Let's do
and
this
we can
first.
do that now. And,
Let's do that.
Yeah, basically to anyone watching, these archetypes are like ingredients, to make a unique recipe for how they're expressed. The way that I like to work with astrology that I think you will appreciate is the biggest symbol in the chart is the space. This is space itself. So just like you said, there's the Tao and then there's the 10,000 things, right? There's the unmanifest and there's the manifest. So being concerned with the unmanifest is really important when we work with astrology. Really important, because if we're going to decide to play with these forces in the manifest, these gods, but they're not the God.
Lower G God.
Exactly. So that's really, really important, because we don't want to be working with all these forces without being rooted in the Tao, being rooted in the source.
Gotcha.
If we are, then these are just manifestations and emanations of that, so that they're all great things.
Cool.
So for you, in this life, you have the Sun of Aries, right? And each archetype, when it's rooted in the Tao, it will express its virtue. When it's rooted in the ego, it will express its vice. So I will describe both sides of it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find yourself in both sides at different times in your life. And, and understanding this for everyone, this is like guardrails of oh, okay, I see when that's happening, I see when that's happening, and that can help us to express our uniqueness in more of virtue and more of something that's good for us and good for everyone around us. So Aries, of course, has the virtue of courage, the virtue of leadership, of pioneering, going first, not being afraid to initiate and have that divine spark quality that's like, here I am, and I'm gonna go forward with this, what I'm called to. You think of Moses parting the Red Sea, right? There's an obstacle, but Aries is knows that it has to get over that water, and has to create a path, and it's gonna do that courageously and boldly. The shadow is Aries it could be too impulsive. It could be too. It could make choices based on anger. It could make choices based on just itself and not worry about others. Could deny other people's feelings. And it could just be selfishness in general. That could be Aries shadow.
Yeah, I'll reflect on this. So from my experience, I like to always, because it's so easy for me to see that like the imbalances before my awakening were so obviously the Aries and like my Cancer, which we'll talk about in a bit. Like as a kid, for example, I had this fiery temper where I would just like get so overwhelmed and self-thought that I would just like crash out intensely, or it would just be like out of anger for nothing but myself, but the build up of that masculine archetype of just holding everything in would just happen. And so I was always having that type of stereotypical Aries imbalance of impulsive action, reacting to my environment rather than responding, blowing up in random feats of anger because I just held everything in and didn't let life go through me. But then also on the flip side, once I awakened and started to see the pattern of myself and just the world around me, it really did become this way. Especially the more and more I become embodied, the more and more it's just like, oh, I am just the guy who's going to push people into getting to that state. I'm going to push the envelope always and be that force in which shows people the path, because I'm trying to push forward and push consciousness as far as possible. That's my whole dharma, is just to get consciousness, to get as far as possible, use my life for that example. So it always lines up for me. Obviously conditioning layers will continue. I haven't blown up in a long time, but there's some subtleties to the imbalances. Like every once in a while I'll have some impulsive thing that I'll immediately catch, but archetypes play out still, no matter how embodied you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you want to talk about the moon?
Yeah, let's do moon.
Okay. So the moon is in Cancer, and we think of the sun is the lord of the day, right? On the earth for us. It's we see it, it's visible, it's the lord of the day, right? And then the lord of the night is the moon. So very simply, the sun is your conscious self that's in life, that's seen, it's like your energy source, it's your radiance, and the moon is who you are at night and your source of feeling safe, feeling at home, feeling into your dream world, feeling into your emotions, and your style of maybe you go home and you have a dog, or you have friends, or you just go really deep into yourself, but it's how you kind of work with the deeper emotions and what you almost feel like you need for recuperation and rest and rejuvenation.
Gotcha.
So with Cancerian moon, the moon here is at home, and it's home sign of Cancer. The moon is said to rule Cancer as an affinity or an archetypal similarity to Cancer. So here in the Cancer, it's you want closeness, you want good friends, people you trust, people you can be vulnerable with, and they can tell you vulnerable with you. And there's just a nice peace and emotional safety and bondedness that's really, Cancer's like the cosmic mother, you know, it holds and nurtures, and that's how people grow, and they have a safe place to come home to, you know? So Cancer is an extremely important archetype, very different from Aries. These are intentions, or they're square.
Right.
Aries wants to go forward, and it's not thinking about that. Cancer wants to hold and feel safe. But for you know, Cancer is not weak. It's completely very tenacious, and the mother's not weak, right?
Right.
Very strong energy, but it just goes about how it moves forward in a different way.
Got you.
Yeah, Aries goes through that barrier, and Cancer embraces it and grows through it, you know.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. How about the imbalances of Cancer?
So yeah, that could be clinginess, neediness, codependency.
Cool.
Yeah, just overly sensitive, like.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that one. Yeah, I mean, let's start with the pre-awakening. All those things were, you know, those were my reasons for my awakening. You know, all my depression that like got me into my awakening was those things. You know, I was looking at my older brother with his friends that he's had since like he was really little, and I didn't really felt like I had those close connected friends that, you know, I was so desperately wanting. So I was just always looking externally and not getting the validation that I really wanted internally. And then so as I was clinging to these things, you know, as I had a girlfriend at the time, which was my main catalyst for my depression and waking up, you know, it was all this external clinging for trying to control something, control this, you know, this only one safe space that I had that was so important to my energy that like really woke me up. And so once I did wake up, all of that, you know, manifested right in front of me. I started having these close friends who, you know, were very much my space in which I can receive the energy and, you know, get that closeness that I always kind of wanted as a kid and, you know, as a younger teen. And so it's really hilarious to just like listen to these archetypes and you're just like, oh, of course. Because that's exactly what happens. You know, I would like to also state, it's like when you're looking at, you know, the astrology, how I always look at it from my lens is through those elements. So you have like the Aries of fire, Cancer of water, and you're talking about how they are very opposites but complementary, because it's like yang and yin, you know, Ida and Pingala, it's like it's all written right there. So it's like you can see like I had that very fieriness, but it's also I had that very yin nature, always like leaning into the internal world of like emotions and stuff. Super interesting.
Definitely.
Always funny to look at the elements when you're looking at astrology. You're like, of course.
Exactly. That's the building blocks of it all.
Yeah, for real.
For sure.
All right, let's do rising, because I'm always interested in rising. To me, it's like one of those ones is like sun and moon always makes super sense to me, but rising always can like, it always just differs so drastically in my experience for whatever reason. I don't know why, if it's just like a filter throughout my head, but let's go through it so I can also piece together my own rising.
Yeah, so rising, remember, is not a planet. So it's not like it's not like a being or that kind of character that resides within you. It's an orientation.
Right. It's like more like what other people will see your mirror as.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so you think of like there's 4 angles. You know, the ascendant, the descendant on the other side, the midheaven, and the IC at the bottom.
Gotcha.
So you see someone far away and in a crowd, and you think, oh, this is what this person's archetype is. That's their midheaven. You see them on stage, you see them at a party, in public, that's their aura. You come up right next to them, hey, what's up, Ellis? And then bam, you interact with them. They see your rising.
Gotcha.
Then you decide to get in a relationship with them. You go on a date. They start to see your descendant. That's how you start to become in partnership.
Interesting.
And then they come to live with you. You get married. Now they see your IC. They see the deepest part of you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just the roots of the chart, the bottom of the chart, the hidden, the most private part of you.
Gotcha.
Right?
Interesting.
So the angles are orientations. They're extremely important.
Right.
So your Sagittarius rising is kind of the energy that you, that's the front door of your house. That's when people first come to meet you, and you go to a party and they first interact with you. That's what they see. So you have this conviction. Sagittarius has conviction. It has vision. It has faith. It has optimism. It always is looking on the bright side, and it's another fire sign. Whereas Aries is a little bit more of the warrior, Sagittarius is more of the philosopher and the priest.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Shadow? Yeah, any shadows about it?
Yeah, the shadow, it could, conviction can turn into dogma. So you could not want to, you could not listen to others' beliefs, and your beliefs are the way. Or it could be blind optimism, and you're not seeing, it can just be too blunt. It can blaze over. Fire can do that, and all the fire signs can be too. They're just
burning a little bit too much.
Exactly. So they can burn people, and
that's so interesting because like throughout my whole life, way before spirituality came into my life, I was always told that I was like an old soul. That stereotypical like spirituality thing, and it's super interesting when you think about it from that Sagittarius lens. It's like they're really looking at that rising of like someone who's just really is the visionary, because these are just archetypes that have been playing out. I didn't really know any of this when I was a kid, especially, but it's like people were always telling me like, you are a visionary, an old soul, a very wise person, a philosopher. It's like I did not know anything about philosophy. I was just a kid, so it's super interesting. And then obviously with the fire, I'm very blunt when it comes to a lot of things. I'm just going to tell you how it is, especially when it comes to like someone who's very interested in spirituality. In my head, it's like, you're trying to stay in equanimity and peace of I am. So I'm going to keep you there because that's the true goal. That's how it is from my experience. It's like, anytime I feel like I'm getting a little off balance of I am, I'm trying to correct myself. And everyone wants that, whether they know it or not. So I'm always going to be that harsh mirror, probably part of that Sagittarius. Case, for sure.
So there's tons of gifts. There's gifts to all these things, but I think, in Law of One we talk about we're balancing. In Law of Polarity, we're balanced. So astrology is a study of polarity. So you see your opposite sign is Gemini. That's your descendant. So you look for Gemini in relationships, and you enjoy that because Gemini is the opposite. Gemini is the skeptic. Gemini is going to question everything. Gemini is curious. Shadow of being scattered. And shadow of not. Conviction has a strength to it because we're going to go forward with something. Because we have a belief we're going to land on. Could become dogma. So we need some curiosity. So if we can balance these things, then we are going to move forward with the best way. But you're always going to have a little imbalance. We're all going to have imbalance because that makes us unique.
Right. I mean, that's how we're learning. I mean, it's so interesting to me too that it's like especially as the more you get embodied, like for example, from my experience, once I started learning about astrology just throughout my own being, because I didn't really get into it until like Kundalini fully settled into my system, and it was kind of just apparent to me that like energies are flowing in this constant state. Like I didn't have to study it because I was feeling it in my breath, and so it's so interesting to me when you're looking at these positive and negatives of astrology. It's like you can really see as soon as you have that turning point of a spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it, you really see that switch between being predominantly shadow, like negative, for instance, to being that predominantly positive. It's like I don't really see too much. Like obviously it's still there, conditionings are infinite, but it's like you rarely see the shadows be played out as much as after your spiritual awakening, after the embodiment phases of all these things. And those like gifts really start to shine way more apparent.
Definitely.
That's so interesting to me because it's like, to me, that's what's super important for the skeptics, for example, who don't even think astrology is like real, like this science isn't actually what's happening. I'm like, well, maybe look into your astrology because those things, those shadows are telling you straight up right there, as bluntly as possible. Whether you're gonna say it's too vague, it's like, well, maybe you should do some deeper research is how I always think about it. So I'm always interested in seeing both the shadows and the light works of each of them. And it's super interesting to see, like, I always knew that the angles were really important, but your explanation is like, helps me understand that way more of like, just these are the explanations of those things. Super cool. Are there any like other key notes that you think is worth talking about?
I think, yeah, so your north node, so yeah, let's look at the south and north node.
Cool,
this would be, like, really in evolutionary astrology, we would start there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So evolutionary astrology would be like to like bring someone into more of a embodiment?
Exactly.
Cool.
So evolutionary astrology is, yeah, exactly, like is a path towards enlightenment, so to speak. Right. So to them, the sun, moon, and rising is just the vehicle of how you do your soul's mission.
Gotcha.
So they're looking at, so your south node in Capricorn, in second house, we could go into that too, but north node in Cancer in the 8th house. So we're walking towards north node. We're walking towards Cancer in the 8th house. So you're walking to embody more of that sensitivity and sharing resources with people.
Right.
Instead of the Capricorn south node, which can be like stuck on its own, my resources, my ambition, control, so we look at the negative parts of Capricorn, we look at south node, like,
that makes sense.
so we look at like control, ambition, mastery, but ultimately, can be cold and thinking about its own personal resources, and then you're walking towards Cancer, which we described Cancer, which is great. Your moon's there, so you're kind of walking towards this care and this nurture and this vulnerability, but also 8th house, which is about resources, intimacy, like really just stepping into more tighter bonds with people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, that makes so much sense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Capricorn's the earth element of May, right? Or May area, May time?
Not May. It is earth element.
It is earth element?
It's
okay.
December, winter.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's so funny to me that, like, of course, how these damn archetypes work out, man. It's like you're literally getting like a masculine to feminine as like, collective consciousness going that masculine to feminine run. And it's always interesting to me because my lens is always through that elements. It's like, obviously we're all the elements, we're all mastering all of them. And you do have your predominance per se, but, as much as like you're also you're getting affected by all these astrologies and stuff as well. And so it's super interesting, the more and more you really go into the astrology itself, the further you can really just see like how you're not really in control at all. It literally gives you that divine like message of like, look, life is happening through you. Your whole deal is how you respond to it. And that's when you can start empowering yourself with those gifts that we've like mentioned, for example. And those are super cool to me. From like a Capricorn to like Cancer run, if we want to like kind of look at my own journey, but it really like shows to me, it's like one of the biggest things mentally that like really flipped in my head was like this giving aspect of my realities. Like I always was seeking of trying to give, and create, that like Cancer kind of is always stemming from. But it's like there was a lot of that Capricorn early before a spiritual awakening where it was like always just thinking of the I, always thinking of like, how do I create form right now, rather than seeing that everything is one and giving. So yes. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's deepening right now too, because your I see, that root of you, is Pisces.
Interesting.
Pisces is kind of that ending symbol that really represents the portal into the infinite. And it's mysticism.
That's air too, right?
No, Pisces is also water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The fish.
So it kind of represents it's really the portal back to the Tao. That goes back to Aries, which is the inception and the divine spark again, at spring equinox. But your root is this Pisces mystic, and the transiting, the transiting nodes, and your midheaven is Virgo. So you are learning and reaching towards Virgo, which is more organization and like being more effective and competent and everything, but and more like outer service versus Pisces, which is like the inner mystic that's just rooted in that universal love. But the transiting nodes are approaching that for you. So you're actually realizing like, you know, the north node, transiting north node is hitting your Pisces IC. So you're stepping even deeper into this water.
Got you.
And letting go of like, I don't need perfectionism in my service. And I actually need more of this universal love. And this is actually serving your purpose and your mission. And how you're unfolding on this, in this journey. Yeah.
I mean, you said it exactly how it is, man. Just reading the chart.
Just reading the chart.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great learning lesson that I've had to experience, especially early on in my spiritual journey. Like, as soon as I waken up, and then my ego came back swinging with a spiritual ego, that was like my big learning lesson, was like trying to have all these pattern recognitions, but now how do you actually use this into form? It's like you're gifted the vision of everything, but then how do you actually explain it to the individual of the pattern recognitions? I mean, you're saying it right there. It's like best way is through love, man. If you embody love, I mean, no one can really say anything different. You're doing it. So cool. Anything else? Because that is blowing my mind.
Jupiter has been in Cancer for the past 6 months. It stays in the sign for a year, and it's in this 8th house, and it's approaching this north node in Cancer. So there's just like a whole water element activation for you in this time, where you're like all these water gifts that you've been kind of cultivating are now not only feeding your core and your root deeper, but are starting to come out into closer relationships and bringing them out into tribe and into a deeper level.
Makes sense. I mean, we're talking right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I mean, I want to explain it through this elemental lens, because I think this is fascinating. You made the connection click so fast. I'm like, you're explaining how in this past 6 months, this water element has been really apparent. And water to me is always that memory aspect of like the body, the body, the mind, karma. It's all just memory imprints. And so as I've been just journeying and exploring my reality through van life and exploring, I've also had some very trippy experiences, of reincarnation, of like past life memories appear in this 6 months. And that, I realized afterwards that I've had many of these type of experiences beforehand, but this was now clear to my experience. I was like, all right, these are my past lives, whether, I don't even fully believe that these are real in the grand scheme of things, but, from a explanation standpoint, it is hilarious to see there's like these water memories are really getting pushed into your agenda. I mean, it's so interesting. One of the things that I always think about is that like, I'm like so impressed by astrology that I'm always scared to even look at it, because I'm like, I don't even want to know the future. I'm trying to stay in the present moment. It's like, I don't even want to know the future, let alone like the past stuff is like, that just comes and goes whenever it needs to. But it's like, I don't even want to see that future.
Yeah, so I started off this conversation by saying, when I was 20 years old and started to really understand this stuff and really be inspired, fascinated, I thought, like, how could anybody not?
Right.
If this is real, like, is this not the coolest thing in the world that we can see and know this stuff? But I really understand now that like it's definitely not meant for everybody to know, and for some people it's actually not helpful. But if you know, but it's like a musician that also masters the structure of music theory and music structure, and they can do amazing things.
Right.
So it has that potential.
Right.
Because you're now studying like you're looking into how reality works by studying the fractal above.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, okay. So you can read and be in tune with the greater forces that are animating us down here. So it just needs to be used with care.
Yeah,
it needs to be used well.
It's always a balancing act. These things are always double-edged swords, you know. Like I was saying, it's like I don't want to know the future, but it's like if I didn't already have cultivated such an internal knowing, and like I didn't have this, you know, ability of just like feeling the energy of my body shift, like how important it would be for me to just understand like, oh, this is the astrology now. Like if I didn't have that sensitivity already ingrained in my system, like to me it would be so important to just have like that astrology database or an expert like you to help like guide you and like, this is how this is working, so that you can become sensitive to your own being. Because, you know, that's the name of the game. It's just how do you get more sensitive to life?
Exactly. And if we can meditate and like take time and integrate what we learn, it's going to be so much better.
Right.
If we can just dive into it and be like, whoa, okay, I think that's enough for today.
Right.
Let's let it go.
Right.
But just like the internet, it's like, wow, there's an infinite amount of cool things to look at. This is a very airy art form, just like the internet is, and this is an airy time. And we're stepping into outer planets all being in air and fire. Pluto and Uranus going into Gemini, Pluto going into Aquarius.
Interesting.
And this is the big thing that hasn't happened in a very long time, which is the 3 outer planets are moving from water and earth signs to air and fire signs, and will be there for some time now, you know.
Cool.
So, and they're all in like a amazing formation. But yeah, you got Uranus and Gemini, you have Pluto and Aquarius, so it's like AI, technology, all this stuff that we can be so stimulated by, right? Fire and air stimulation, mental body, you know?
Right.
So it can be really great, but let's just be careful and go back to our earth and water and our physical body, our emotional body, and root down and be secure in those ways. And then we can enjoy the fireworks.
Right. It's always funny to me, like from the non-spiritual perspective, when they look at us, they always are seeing the mirror and seeing that we're spaced out. But in actuality, it's them being spaced out because they're always stimulated on the phone, always in the thoughts. It's like, no, we are actually grounded. This is why you're seeing that mirror. So it's really funny that you explain it like that. It's like, of course, that's just how, you know, they're all just getting ridden, you know, controlled by the astrologies. Life is flowing through them equally as much as it's flowing through us. So
Exactly.
It's hilarious.
We're just trying to respect where we really come from.
Right, we're just trying to flow with it.
Yeah.
It's always how I like to describe it. It's like you're just trying to learn how to surf this life, man. It's like you're just trying to balance and flow with the wave. Like it makes no sense to try to go opposite of the wave. You're just going to keep getting tumbled and tumble again, which is what the cycle of suffering is.
Yeah.
So it's like learn to ride that wave, man. It's way more fun.
Definitely.
All right, you got any other key things you think about?
I think that's good for now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I have thought about that I think you may be able to answer something about is we can probably use astrology. You know, I've been thinking about this for a while. That like if you just look back at like where we were, like space-wise, where our planets were when Earth was, you can probably find like when exactly stuff like Atlantis would have been, like just based off like astrology and like, you know, what the elements were during that time. What was the, you know, way of being and what were their catalysts like. And so it's super interesting because you can do that also in the future. Like what would our children's catalysts be like depending on when the astrology is? What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some understanding that anytime we kind of enter the age of Aquarius, it is, you know, completion of that 26,000 year cycle. And it is kind of the start of a golden age.
Gotcha.
So I think, you know, America seems to be kind of like a new Atlantis, a new place where technology is thriving and all this stuff. And I think, yeah, what we really need to embrace the other great civilization of the time, which was Lemuria. And they were not as concerned with yang and technology and outer things and powerful tools and all this, which could save humanity in certain levels. But the Lemurians knew we need to be in tune with nature and each other and harmonious in our mystical center. And if we can come back to that root, which is the Tao, right? That's being rooted in the Tao and not rooted in the 10,000 things, worshiping the 10,000 things. So So I think if America can, come back to that center, we can do amazing things with what we're building. And I think that's where we're at on the spiral.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100% with you. I mean, I know we're gonna have plenty more talks about this type of stuff. I mean, every time I talk to you about astrology, I'm just learning more about it because I'm so inept to it. But yeah, I appreciate this talk. I mean, we'll have plenty more to talk about later because I got a lot more questions. Obviously, you just keep sparking more and more connections. I'm like, oh, what if this? So I'll plug your stuff into the description. So if you gotta check him out, he's coaching people on this astrology stuff. Obviously, he's really good at it. So if you want a good astrology coach, this is the man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it.